It is round one of the Arena Championships here. This is the first round of the draft, and you might have seen my draft review video where I came to this red-green oil deck with a triple oil go troll and two hazardous blast. It's kind of my game plan here. Stall out the board, and then cast blast. Your creatures can't block, attack and kill you. That's what I'm trying to do here. So not super aggressive red-green, more like mid-rangey. And I think it's okay. It's pretty solid, but it's not like definitely not the best. There's no like flashy bomb rare, and it's definitely missing some pieces. But it looks a lot like what a pod draft of good players usually is, because obviously we're all fighting for the good cards, and so that means you kind of have to make something work off the scraps. And I'm up against Hiroshi Onizuka here, the eventual winner of the tournament, who definitely did make something work off his scraps. He was sitting right across from me in the pod, and since this is an open decklist tournament, I actually get to see the deck he was playing before the round starts here. So I'll show you that to you right now. This is his red-white equipment draft deck, which is utilizing some of these like 3-drops here that at common that goes super late, and making these work with some of the other cards, like these 4 Mirrodin cards that also go really late, like the Wolsark Splitter and the Miran Bradish even. And stuff like Infested Flesh Cutter and so on. So there's a lot of like, low power level cards that kind of like come together and like actually work to form a coherent game plan here. His most notable cards is 2 copies of Hex Gold Hoverwings. It's like kind of the payoff for having all these equipments, and definitely something that helps him like break through any sort of long game, just like by repeatedly forcing big flyers. And something notable about this deck is that it's not super aggressive. I mean, there's not that many 2-drops, and they're not like super scary. And the curve is actually kind of high. Also, there's only one trick here with the Complete Devotion, and only a few removal spells. The Rebel Salvo is definitely really good, and so is the Annex Sentry, but it's definitely like very tame in a lot of apartments. But it does have like a lot of the equipment stuff. Like, it's definitely going hard in on those synergies. So that's what I'm going to try and beat here. And yeah, let's let's see how I manage. So, my first hand here is kind of interesting. It's definitely has like a 2-drop to play on curve. I'm on the play, and I have a Hex Gold Slash to like deal with Hiroshi's 2-drop, or even something later. Like a lot of the 4-drops are 4 Mirrodin equipment that don't buff toughness. So Hex Gold Slash does seem kind of well suited. It actually kills all the 4-drops in Hiroshi's deck, because there's also the 3/4 Toxic. So it's a pretty big reason to keep this hand. I also have my Hazardous Blast, which I think is pretty important in my game plan, but obviously not going to be very good in my opening hand usually. And then I have this Oil Gorger Troll, which obviously both needs 2 green mana and some oil enabled to work. So this card is like pretty bad in my opening hand. So there's the question there. I have 2 really good cards and at least a couple lands, but then like the 3rd mountain is kind of irrelevant. Rather have that be a forest, right? So I'm definitely missing some pieces and also missing the oil stuff. So not really sure if I'm supposed to keep or not. Something I noticed while building my deck is that I only have 5 cheap oil enablers. I have the 2 Rustvine Cultivators, 2 Axiom Engravers, and 1 Incubation Sac. And I thought that it would be very important that I have one of these in my opening hand, because they're, usually don't end up dying, because the opponent won't spend removal on them, and they really help me enable my trolls. But right now I have none of that, and I think I'm still gonna keep the hand just because this is limited, and like the value of 7 cards is pretty high, so you can't really mulligan stuff like this. But maybe I actually can. I'm not really sure. Looking back at this, I feel like it would have been nice to like have a little bit more experience with the archetype and actually know like how important it is to lead on one of those early drops. Definitely would be a snap keep this hand without those if it had a forest, but the fact that it's missing 2 pieces is maybe like kind of hard. And I think I was valuing the Hazardous Blast as like an upside in this hand, where in reality it's actually kind of a downside to have that card in your opening hand. So I ended up keeping this, but I think actually in retrospect I regret this. Though it is always tempting to just keep any like 7-card hand that can play a couple cards here. And Yeah, you see me with my classic full control here. Alright, so we draw an Anointer here, and it looks like I might just like have to play that one out as a 4-2 here. Opponent answers with a Mandible Justicar and approach our first decision here. Alright, so we draw another mountain here. That's definitely like, not one of the best draws in my deck. It looks a lot like what will happen next turn is that I'll just play out a vanilla 4-2. So that's not great. So I could like Hexghost Slash the Justicar, or I could just attack first. What often ends up happening with Lifelinkers is that your opponent is not really willing to trade them off very easily. And so I would assume that my opponent is not just going to block with their Justicar on my 3-1 Rebel token here. So I think, in reality, the attack is kind of free, and I get a little bit more info on whether I want to save the Hexghost Slash. Because if my opponent, let's say, plays another 1-toughness creature next turn, I actually don't want to use my Slash, I just want to like slam this Hazardous Blast and kill 2 of their things. So I think that's what's gonna be my game plan here. I think I can usually get in an attack for free that won't get blocked. It's obviously a little bit suspicious because it's way better for me to keep this on defense if I have nothing, right? So looks like I will have something, but yeah, I'm actually like not really interested in trading off this Rebel here. So you see a Gold Warden's Helm. Alright, so yeah, now I have to decide, is this good enough to use my Hazardous Blast just to trade for a Justicar? It might be, because like my current draw is a little bit low resource, and I'm definitely gonna play things, you know, at their like lowest resource mode. Like I'm gonna play on my Anointer, and it's very possible that if I draw a couple Forest here, I'm also just gonna play a 3-4 Troll that just gain 3 life. So it might actually be pretty important for me to just eke out as much value as possible for my cards here, and turning this Hazardous Blast into something more is kind of tempting. Like maybe I'm just supposed to like take these life total swings and see if I can like make my cards better. The idea that Hexghost Slash hits every 4-drop is definitely appealing here, and it's actually very possible that I could just take this damage here, attack with my 3-1, and maybe the opponent will block there, and then the Anointer. But I do end up deciding to just use my Slash right now, on the Justicar, and I don't know, I'm not actually sure that that's the correct line here. I mean, it looks very, very juicy and tempting, but if I analyze what I'm supposed to do in this game, I mean, I already put myself in a kind of like a backhanded behind position here by keeping a hand that like was very inflexible and forces me to play out my cards in a not very in a not very like beneficial manner. And so just like rooting on just like the ability of Hazardous Blast to like push through enough damage seems kind of unlikely here. Unless like I draw a second copy of something, maybe I can couple things together, but right now, like trying to be aggressive is not really like I don't have the resources to be aggressive, and I think it's actually important that I try and extract more value out of my cards here. So maybe I'm really supposed to just take the damage here. That also meant I'm not supposed to attack with my Battle Fist, potentially, if I make that connection right. So that there's like, it's kind of like compounding mistakes here. In the end, I just decide to go with the A, B, and C play of just killing the 3-2 lifelink when you can with your Shark. You have your mana, but yeah, I don't think mana efficiency matters much here, right? Because just so likely to like end up having that 1 mana left over anyway. And like my hand is anything but efficient, right? Efficiency is not what I'm playing towards. I decided to trade off my Battle Fist here for the 3-2, which the 2-3, I think I just expected him not to block, but actually I don't think I like that attack, because one thing my hand has going for it is that it has this Hazardous Blast, and it's very possible I can actually leverage that, but maybe that's also a good reason to attack, because if the opponent takes the damage again, I mean, I'm eking closer to a spot where my cards can actually work. So it's interesting. I do just like run out this Anointer here, just a 4-2. And yeah, let's see if I can do something with it. And my opponent plays, okay, that's why they, very easily would just want to like trade off their Rebel. They're gonna return their equipment here and get a Might. And now I really wish I had this Hexghost Slash, huh? Hexghost Slash has a blast attack for 7. Like that actually seemed like, a pretty good turn here, but instead I'm not gonna be able to kill the Attendant, and things just looking kind of dire. I can attack with my Anointer here, and maybe the opponent won't block it. But it's kind of risky, right? Because if they block it, my blast just gets even worse. And they don't have like that good of a reason not to block it. I actually guess they do, because they have like they have a 2/3 in hand, and they might just want to trade that one off instead. It looks like I'm pretty likely to just like play out my troll here, and just just cash in on that 3/4. You just get on board, and yeah, I don't know. It's pretty interesting here. I think my game plan right now relies a lot on Hazardous Blast pushing in damage, and I think in order obviously if I trade off my Anointer, my blast doesn't really work at all. But I also don't think it works at all if my opponent is at 17. So I think I just gotta get down and dirty here and just get in with my Anointer and hope that the opponent finds a good reason not to block it. I don't know, I feel like that's better. The other thing I could do is like I can hope I top deck the second blast. But that's like over the course of the game, right? It doesn't have to be right now. And then I can do like the 1-2 punch of just like going in blast next turn, just to attack for 7, and then like later on I can do the full attack for 10. It's kind of hard to make that happen though, especially since like the opponent's also going to be able to pressure me. So yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to attack here or not. It does smell like I need my opponent to make a mistake though, and not block. It's probably the better line I have here. But I think I really did put myself in this spot, right? I just like didn't use my card efficiently enough. Because I mean I could foresee this happening, right? I mean my hand is just terrible, right? None of my cards are living up to their potential. I used my Hexgore Slash not to kill a 4-drop, even though it kills all the 4-drops in the deck. I'm gonna use my Hazardous Blast to like get in for like half their life total and not kill much, which is also like not what it's supposed to be doing. And yeah, there's just like so many things wrong here. But it is definitely a very tough decision. You can see me tank on it a bit here. I'm gonna just adjust this just a tad here, so I don't like keep falling out of focus. I don't know if that did anything. I think I decided not to attack here. Just valuing the Anointer too much. But it's also like once I take too much time thinking about it, of course the block gets more and more important for the much more appealing for the opponent. So at some point you just like kind of have to like, okay, well I mean I've thought about it for quite a while and I'm not sure, but then you have to lean towards like not giving the opponent the decision because of course you've like leaked some info. Alright, so at least they play out a 3/1 here, and that means that my Hazardous Blast is actually like dealing, you know, some damage. I can like equip my Battle Fist here and get in for even more. So yeah, I mean it's cleaning up a bit, and I do get a hit in for 8, put them to 9. Definitely in a range where things can happen if they do happen, but I mean, it's just like hard for me to actually like leverage this in any way. Like I mean, just like left a land in hand at this point, but I also think this is a fine spot to just cash in my my card, because otherwise, like, you know, I can't really attack very well there, because obviously the Anointer just trades for the 3/1, right? So that can't attack. And then the Troll just bounces off the Ascendant, and if I equip it, it just trades with the Ascendant, right? So I can't really leverage my cards anyway. All right, I draw Vorik here. Hopefully it hits a Cycle land, so I can like get some card flow going. It does not. It does put 2 Ruthless Predation on bottom. Luckily, I mean, I was really hoping on this that it wouldn't put the Hazardous Blast on bottom, because right now, I mean, I am presenting lethal with another blast, right? I know the bottom 3 cards on my deck are not it, so it's 1 out of 23 at this point, right? And that percentage is just gonna rise once each turn. So right now, the game's kind of changing, right? My whole point is to try and keep myself alive, stabilize the board. Hopefully, I can keep 9 power in play so that I can just kill them in one fell swoop. I decided not to attack with my Anointer for the same reason. I just want to present lethal with my with a top decked Hazardous Blast at any point. So the opponent just plays a Badish and doesn't attack. It's also, oh, they can actually attack with the Badish. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm inclined not to block here. I'm not sure if that's correct actually, but drawing a 3/1 definitely like rewards me for that. But in some ways, I think I have to be like willing to give up some board presence. So that I live long enough, right? And then, like, you know, even if I only have 8 power in play, I'm probably gonna draw another point of power. Even if I top deck a Hazardous Blast, it's gonna be fine. But here we see, okay, so Swooping Lookout and Hexgore Hobblewings. Now the opponent's really putting the pressure on me in the air, and it's getting kind of scary. Especially with all these equipments like that are available to attach to the flyers. Like, it's I actually don't have that much time left. Which is kind of awkward because, as I said, I'm like, you know, 1 out of 22 to draw my my Hazardous Blast is like less than 5%. So, and obviously like any troll I draw, like I still don't have any oil enablers, so like that's not gonna work. I mean, I don't have like my engravers to like loot away lands, and I definitely don't have time for that. So yeah, things aren't looking super great here, and I think actually like trading for the Bardiche last turn would have been much nicer. Also, of course, the Hexgold Hoverwings means that every equipped creature is just larger, so you have to factor that in as well. I think I actually forget that at some point. So yeah, Furnace Rider doing a very good job of its usual thing where it just stabilizes the board by being just a 4/5, which is very huge, and then also like swinging the race very quickly by giving other play haste. So I do decide to trade on my 3/1. That's obviously like fine because I still keep enough power in play. Draw a random 3/2 here. This one is like not that bad. Something that's interesting about the Centurion here is that, again, I really want to like keep my eye on maximizing my top decks, and I don't have that much time, right? So something that could matter a lot is if I draw a Troll, I really want to be able to draw another card off the Troll. And also, how it's looking right now is that in the air, my opponent can just equip like +2/+0 to the Lookout, which makes it 4 power, and then equip the +1/+0 -1 the Battle Fist to one of those creatures, right? So your opponent can just make 8 power in the air right now by just equipping for like 4 mana. And yeah, that means like, it's go time. That means I gotta go. Because I am dead in 2 turns, right? So I need to top the Troll or Hazardous Blast. And I need to set myself up so that a Troll top deck is actually like good enough to do anything. Which means I really want to get an oil counter on something. I can attack with my Anointer is the only thing. If I trade for the Lookout, that's kind of neat. I think I actually like that because that just like lessens the amount of flying damage. It reduces things to I think, a 3-turn clock, right? They can like make 6 power in the air. Yeah, they can make 6. They can obviously like equip the Hexgold Hoverwings to something else, so it gets a little bit dicey. But they also have to be aware of like my crackback. And of course, putting counters on my Centurion not only helps with the Troll, it also helps with the potential backswing. So I think attacking with the Anointer here is kind of good right now. I really would like it to block the Strider. It does help a lot with that, but the issue is that the opponent's not attacking with Strider unless they equip it with Vigilance. And at which point, if it is equipped with Vigilance, it's a 6/6, and so my 3/4 and 3/3 actually just line up well to double block it here. So that's kind of gonna be my game plan. So I attack with the Anointer, and then I have like a good double block on the Strider so it doesn't get to attack. And yeah, that's where I'm gonna be at here. Then hopefully the opponent trades now. If they don't trade now, they're forced to trade next turn. Then at least I can like activate my thing. But I just want to get this Anointer off the board, get a counter on my Centurion, and so that is the reason why I end up making this attack here. But it does take a lot of analysis, and I have to like. The really important thing here is thinking about like how much damage output does my opponent actually have, how much time do I have, which cards are in my deck. How do I make as many of my draws as good as possible? And what do I actually need? I have still 9 power in play, even if I trade off the Anointer, so that's okay. And I am also at the point where like surviving might matter more than leaving myself out to top deck the Blast, but it's kind of close. One really big thing I miss here, and you'll see that next turn. Maybe you've already spotted it. But my analysis is wrong in one very, very crucial situation here. Do take my time to decide on this attack, and it obviously is kind of a critical spot here. There was also a chance that I could like get to trade off some things and get in a hit with the Centurion and something else, and then like play another blocker and then like maybe like actually threaten lethal in a couple turns from now, as long as the Centurion gets a counter now. So depends a little bit. If the opponent goes like too aggressive on equipping and I am able to survive, then I can actually do some stuff. Alright, so the question now is, do I equip the Battle Fist? And I guess I do equip to the 4/1, huh? I guess just in case my opponent like gives the Strider +1/-1. Anyway, So we see my opponent like think for a little bit here, and ultimately decides to equip the Strider with the Vigilance. At which point I realize that it's not 6 power. It's going to be 7 power because of the Hex Gold Hover Wings buffing the power of each equipped creature. And all of a sudden, my beautifully laid out double block does not look so good anymore. Actually, I would have to like cash in 2 creatures for the Strider, which is not super comfortable here. Or I can take 11 damage down to 5. That's also not super comfortable. So yeah, I don't really know how to get out of this situation. I think honestly, like I can either just take the damage, hope to top deck a Hazardous Blast right now. I can also, another thing I have to consider here is like, what happens if I draw a Troll? Are the 3 life going to be enough to let me survive another turn, and how does that affect my blocking? Because obviously if I have another Troll here, I can much easily double block the Strider. Though of course it might just get equipped again next round. But I also have to consider that the Hex Gold Hover Wings can just equip to the Strider, at which point it's going to be a, well, it's still 7 power, but in the air. Plus the Bata Fist, I guess. So actually, if I take this damage here, I take 11 damage down to 5. I gain 3 from the Troll, but the opponent can equip Hover Wings and Bata Fist to the Strider and actually still kill me through a Troll. I also don't get another count on my Centurion by not blocking. If I trade in my Troll and my Vorak here, I can actually attack. My Centurion will get enough counters that I can attack with it and make the Attendant unable to block, putting my opponent to 5 life. It would also mean that I got a 12, and then next turn they cannot do lethal. They can equip the Badish, so the Indoctrination Attendant. Let's see how this works. So they equip the Badish to the Attendant here. So that's going to be 6 power. And that's really all they can do, huh? So they can attack me for 10, but I'll be at 12. So they can't do that much damage. My Centurion would have had an extra oil. Like, it would have 3 oil counters on it, and then I attack and let it go down to 1. So as long as I have like another creature, I can actually like block with that, and then the Centurion would get another block to attack and put my opponent to 1 life. 1 life is not really lethal though, but it is relevant that like it can potentially threaten another counter there. So I actually think that my best line here is, instead of like hoping for the wild top deck 1 in 22 of hitting the Hazardous Blast, especially once I realized that like drawing a Troll would not be enough, I think I just gotta hope that I can somehow just like use the things I have in play to force my opponent in an awkward spot, right? It's not going to be able to kill them because the opponent can always choose not to attack, but sometimes the best defense is good offense, right? And since I have determined that right now I'm on a really fast clock, especially with the flying equipment, I can just equip to something, right? Like I cannot defend against this. I don't have the time. The only thing I can do is make my opponent worry about Hazardous Blast and potentially threaten him in other ways where he needs to lead back more blockers. And so the only way I can like do that right now is to get just double block the Strider here, trading in my 2 creatures. It kind of sucks, but it's gotta do it. And then get in with my Centurion. Maybe I top deck like Blazing Crescendo, and that would like push in more damage as well as like potentially hit another blocker, and then maybe I can go from there. Or like, even if I top deck a Hazardous Blast, like there's still chances I can like make something work. I don't have any haste creatures in my deck though, so yeah, it's kind of rough. But at least double blocking here also means that I'm just like not dead next turn. And honestly, buying myself another draw step here could matter a ton. So I would buy myself another draw step and get an attack in and put my opponent to 5 life, which makes their position much more awkward. So all in all, I think I just made the wrong, like, I think I just end up taking it here, and I don't really like that. Of course, like, just chump blocking doesn't really work, because I still can't attack through their board, and I know that I don't have any removal in my deck, because I put the 2 fight spells on bottom. So I can't even draw into anything that could, like, potentially leverage an attack. Otherwise, it would be kind of nice to chump block and then hope to draw a fight spell. And then, well, I still only put my opponent to 1 and then die in the backswing, so it's not that nice. But yeah, this is definitely not the correct line here. And I do draw a pretty good card. Like, it's a very nice blocker. It's just a big reach creature. But, I mean, I put myself in a spot where I can't really attack. I mean, I can probably trade this one off. But it's at a spot where my opponent now has multiple lethal attackers, right? So I have to trade off the Skywarden for the Flyer, and yeah, I mean, I'm just like not really getting anywhere, huh? Like, what if I just like made this? I ended up making this double block anyway. What if I just made it last turn? And yeah, now the opponent, of course, has like a +2/+2 equipment, and everything is terrible. I have a big 4-chamber Centurion, but I cannot really utilize it in any sensible way. And yeah, even though I did draw a couple a couple good creatures there, it just like I was not able to leverage that. So that was an interesting one. So if I can I not? Okay. So if I end up double blocking earlier there, just running it through in my head, I would attack the opponent down to 5, play a 5/5 Reach Menace. The opponent can't kill me, and I have a menace creature, which of course is dangerous. If I get to trade it off, I can make like something else. Yeah, it's actually like a pretty hard spot from the opponent at that point. They would probably that +2/+2, but I don't know. They can't really do that much with it. And like next turn, I'll play another 5-power creature, which is lethal, right? With the Mantis. Yeah, I think I'm actually like in not that bad of a spot if I just double block there. And just instead of being so hyper focused that my only out attack is Blast, I see that gotta work out that I can actually like finagle things in other ways and use my cards in the ways that I didn't really intend to use them. Anyways, I was expecting to board out my 4-chamber Centurion a lot, and I do that here. Boarding in a Carnivorous Canopy just to like deal with the Hex Gold Hoverwing mostly. I mean, there's a lot of artifacts in their deck, but they're all equipment, so like they're not that good to kill with Canopy because they obviously leave value behind. But specifically the Hoverwings are pretty nice, partly because like I'm just like so bad at defending against flyers, and partly because and partly because, well, it's mostly just they're like really good at me, who's bad at defending against flyers, right? So I can either blow up the equipment or I can blow up the creature it's equipped to, so I can gain some tempo as well that way. So I think that the fact that there's 2 of those means that Carnivorous Canopy deserves a spot. I also bought in, I was planning to board in both my Engulfers since my opponent's deck is kind of slow. Then I realized that the removal spells, like they have the Molten Rebuke and the Rebellious Strike, the 3-mana deal 5 that has affinity for equipment, and that means like, so my opponent has like 2 deal 5 damage removal spells, which makes my Sky Scythe Engulfer quite a bit worse. It's also like not that hard for the opponent to just like break through my 5 toughness. We saw that with my Skywarden just this game. I played a 5/5 Reach, and the opponent's just like, okay, I mean, I'm just gonna like, bash you through it. It doesn't actually do anything. I think what I don't realize here, and I should have realized, I'm also on the play right now. My game plan doesn't work against them. My game plan is to extend the game and then kill them with Hazardous Blast eventually. But I mean, they're creatures, like they're so good at making creatures break through blockers with all their equipment, and especially the 2 Hoverwings. Like my deck is just awfully set up against that. It just like doesn't work. I can maybe have 1 blast in my deck. It's probably okay. But I should be bringing in the 2nd Centurion. I have 2 Centurions in my deck. It's not much of a game plan, but I just need to be more aggressive. I could even bring in the Spore Stinger maybe. I need to focus on that part of my game. I need to punish the opponent for having kind of a clunky deck. And having like a bunch of 4-drops that aren't like good at blocking, that are going to trade down and not give them time to equip. We should have also played this game in a very similar fashion, right? Again, with the double block and like trying to like set up pressure on the opponent. But I just don't realize it. I'm just like super hyper focused on my game plan being what it is. I'm thinking about cutting the Stalker. It'll also be a big mistake, I think, because they can't really punish X1s, and it's a good attacker. Do I really submit this? Oh my god, that's so horrible. Okay. I do end up changing my mind there. Now we're just watching what I ended up doing. So putting a 2nd Canopy, cutting the Engulfer because I realized that like they have a bunch of deal 5s. Yeah, I don't really know. One big issue is that I just like haven't had much experience with this archetype, which means I've never played this matchup before, and actually that matters. Like we talk about that for constructed usually, but even in limited, like just realizing like which sort of plans work against which archetypes matter a lot. If I'd like played this once before, just once, I would probably have realized the exact thing I'm telling you right now. Because I realized after the match that I just messed up. Anyway, so I ended up with a pretty light sideboarding, mulligan the one-lander, and now I have this hand here. Do I put back a land or a blast? I end up putting back a land here. Again, I'm overvaluing the Hazardous Blast a little bit, but in this hand I think it's fine. The Engraver can kind of like loot it away if I need to. And sometimes it is going to be very good against their deck. So this is going to be totally fine. So yeah, play out the Engraver here. Okay, there's a pause. The opponent doesn't have any other 1-mana spells than the Hex Gold Slash. So now I know that they have the Slash in hand. But of course, that means my Anointer is going to be in a worse position. I do decide to just use my Engraver right now, try and look for another play this turn, rather than play my Anointer. Of course, like whether my Engraver has 1 or 2 counters doesn't really matter. It's only the third one that matters. And I draw a second Anointer, so that's kind of good. That means my Anointer is pretty likely to like be able to deal 2 damage later, and actually kill something. Especially again, their 4-drops are really vulnerable to this. So here on turn 3, the opponent has a Sentry and gets to get rid of my Engraver. That's extremely annoying here, because obviously that's something that doesn't die into Anointer, doesn't get punished by Hazardous Blast. I don't have my Hex Gold Slash that could just kill it, or Carnivorous Canopy. And it's also like getting rid... I was thinking that I would have a lot more loot power than I actually end up having here, so this is really awkward. Do I play out an Anointer here and just ping my opponent for 1? Or do I play out a Cultivator and try and set up my Anointer to be a little bit better? I think I mean, if I play out my Anointer here, my opponent will probably just play something they can trade with. And even like the 4-2 equipment is going to be kind of annoying for the Anointer here. So, and I can't really punish that, right? I don't have a slash to work through that. So I think my best line here is just to play out the Cultivator and try and work up my poison, my oil counter total. Something I need to be aware of, though, is that, again, the opponent does have Hex Gold Slash. Oh, that's another reason that just playing out the Anointer for value is not really doing much. Or playing it out for tempo, sorry. It's just much better to hold it for value. So, yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Like, right now, again, I just, like, don't have the tools to push through and be aggressive. That means I should just slow down and try and like, get the most use out of my cards as possible, even though my cards are terrible. Hopefully the opponent just plays the Volshock Splitter here. Yeah, okay, so that's nice. Or the Hex Gold. Anything that I can like, kill with Anointer. So I can't loot right now, but I can draw my card. I can put a counter on the Cultivator, and yeah, I'm probably going to loot away that land. So we get rid of the Splitter there, and yeah, now we have an actual attacker, which probably matters. But of course the opponent has the Shock in hand, so it's not... yeah, it's not looking super good for the Simon here. Okay, there's an X1, so I can kill that with Hazardous Blast and gain some value. The 2-3 might end up being an issue. Yeah, we'll see here. So, I end up not looting in the end step Engraver. I think that's okay, but yeah, now we just draw like 3 forests in a row. It's definitely not the best draws here, especially with this Cultivator just sitting here and looking dumb. And yeah, the question is, do I like just fire off my Hazardous Blast here and just get in for 5? It's so uninspiring. But my cards just like don't do anything anyway. I think I decided to just like, okay, well, I gotta like hope to draw some trolls and like assemble a better board, and then maybe I can do something, or hope that the opponent plays another X1. But of course, assembling a better board when I know they have Slash is also kind of like useless. And the opponent does get to have a good attack here. Oh, yeah, I think we should definitely send the Dune Mover here, because I do value my Cultivator very highly as an oil giver here. And okay, a Vorak, can it hit a cycle land for some value? It cannot. That is awkward. I wonder if we're like at a point here where I'm just supposed to attack with my 2 1-power creatures, like just to represent the Blazing Crescendo. That's something that's really important to keep in mind when you're working with open deck list, is that the opponent will also know what you have, which means you don't have to have your cards to play in a way. Like, you have them. So something I really want to work on, actually, is like... yeah, I think I just missed an attack there. I mean, I don't know, actually. Maybe I just need to play defense. Yeah, okay. I think it's fine not to attack there, but the important bit is just for me to recognize spots where here's actually a good spot to bluff and just make an attack representing something you don't have. That's something I need to work on, I think. and just know, because with all these open decklist tournaments, like there's a lot of value in like making the opponent taking advantage of the fact that your opponent like knows what you have. So they just like fire off the removal spell on my 3/3, which is totally fine because I have nothing else. I just have all these lands now, and yeah, I mean my cards are just underpowered. I relied super heavily on this Hazardous Blast, which didn't do anything. My game plan is super off, and I'm not sure I could like win this game anyway. But even if I'd sideboarded better, because I didn't draw that many sideboard cards, but maybe this Hazardous Blast could have been like a Sky Shroud Golfer, and it would have been a lot better. Okay, at least I draw Troll here, so we can get something started hopefully. And draw my card, and actually like the fact that they equipped to this Lookout and didn't move the equipment over to something else is super neat for me here, because now I can actually like use my Hazardous Blast to take out the flyer here, and I have a double block on the Aspirant, so things are not looking too bad right here. They're pretty bad, but they're not too bad. But of course the opponent has the Rebel Salvo to kill my Troll, and this leaves me not quite dead on board, but basically because the opponent can like put me to 2 life here. They equipped there, so they put me to 2, I guess. But they could have put me to 2 and not lost their Rebel. Obviously, that also means I get to keep my Active Engraver. But yeah, I mean, I draw on land here, not a Troll. None of this works, and I got utterly slaughtered in this match. So yeah, what can we learn from this? I think the big takeaway is definitely like my misassignment of roles in terms of sideboarding, and also a big failure. Like especially game 1, I think was a lot more winnable than I made it out to be. I definitely don't think my hand was a keep in retrospect. Just missing too many pieces for a deck that actually is kind of like a synergy A plus B deck. Of course, again, you can keep a hand without early oil drops, but it just doesn't really work if that hand is also missing colors and also missing developmental plays, right? Like my opening hand, there was like the Triple Mountain, also just like had 1/2 drop and that was it. And then like recognizing to like squeeze more value out of my cards when I'm in a spot where I'm not gonna be able to pressure them and not just like play ABC Magic. It's totally fine to play Sealed Magic, which is kind of like how I think about these spots where you're not really using your removal and you're like not playing on curve and just like trying to like squeeze value out of everything. So that's definitely something to keep more in mind, especially since like I knew I was probably gonna be forced to do some giving up value that game. And then of course there's the like very big not double blocking the Furnace Strider, which was pretty important there. I think this game, I mean, obviously part of it is that I flooded a lot, and I didn't draw any of my cycle lands as well, even though I did see a lot of cards, so I didn't even get to like cash in on that. But obviously there's also like just an excuse, right? Because like part of it is also that my deck is definitely prone to flooding with the way it's set up, and especially with cards like Hazardous Blast, it's just like it's really hard for it to trade for relevant cards in this matchup, and it's just like an underpowered card, right? Whereas if I had a Sky Shroud Engulfer, I mean, yeah, it would have died to one of the 5, like, deal 5 removal spells. I guess my opponent drew all the removal spells this game, huh? Like, all 4. But that means, like, something else would get to live, right? And I would get to double block, and I would, like, maybe get to... Because my opponent's also, like, they have nothing else after this, right? So if I just get to, like, trade a little bit better and have my cards matter more, things actually, like, could end up working out. I guess a big reason that this board looks kind of manageable is that I did use a Hazardous Blast to kill 2 things, so yeah, I mean, okay, maybe this is one of those games that I have to accept is not really salvageable, even with like sideboarding or whatever. My hand was definitely a keep, so yeah, kind of rough, but it doesn't really matter too much because I definitely do think I could have like had a very real impact on game 1, even if I couldn't necessarily have won it. Also gotta realize that I think this matchup it's just not that great for me, because again, my plan is to like stall up the board, but I definitely will say that like after this match, I was left with a feeling of I'm just not sure if my deck is playable. Because again, like my plan is to like stall up the board and cast Hazardous Blast and attack for lethal, but it's like, I'm not getting an early damage most of the time, so I'm just like planning to have 20 power and play and like extending the games at a point. I mean, it's just not realistic. And yeah, that's what has me a little bit worried here, is that like, because it just played out so, like my deck played out absolutely poorly in these games, right? It just like didn't really do much of anything impressive, and my opponent beat me with commons and uncommons, and not even a lot of the good ones. So obviously, like, you know, the red white deck does have a lot of bad cards that come together and are actually good. So like, I'm not saying my opponent drafted poorly or anything, but it's it definitely like was kind of a big blow to me, because I've not drafted this archetype before, and I realized that maybe I actually did something wrong in overvaluing the hazardous blasts. So we'll see if I can rectify that mistake, or if it even is a mistake in the coming rounds here, because yeah, they're starting off with a loss. It's only 9 rounds, so I can lose like about 3 times in a tournament and still be fine. But it's definitely like a tough one, and I need to win some more from this spot. So we'll see if I do.